everyone, Hallie here. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys an overview of Spider-Man within Marvel Rivals. I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks on how to use this character, and also some general gameplay strategies that you can use with Spider-Man to make yourself a better Spider-Man player overall. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Spider-Man's kit. Spider-Man is primarily a melee character, and his main attack, it's a combo of 3 punches, and on the 3rd punch, it does additional damage. His secondary ability is to shoot webs from his web shooters. These webs are very useful for just small amounts of range damage, and they also allow you to use your other ability, which is your web pull ability. Whenever you shot an enemy with your web shooters, you get the ability to use your web pull ability and directly grapple onto your enemy. So this is your main time that you will be using your web shooters as well as your grapple ability with Spider-Man. Spider-Man also has his web swing, which is one of, if not the most powerful mobility ability within the game. You can use this web swing to essentially get across the map within seconds. And it's a little bit difficult to master at first. It's a little bit just finicky to do the web swing initially. However, once you understand the mechanics of the web swing, you will be able to literally web swing across the map and completely disorientate your enemies. And last but not least, Spider-Man's ultimate ability is essentially like a Reaper ult from Overwatch. It's this big web blast where he starts spinning in a circle and he fires off a bunch of webs. This ability essentially guarantees kills on lower health characters, such as like some of the healers within this game. And for the enemies you don't kill, it causes them to be stuck with webs, which is an incredibly useful ability, and his ultimate is incredibly powerful. So, with a brief overview of Spider-Man's kit, he is an incredibly powerful character, and he very much focuses in mobility. So, let's go ahead and get into the playstyle for Spider-Man and how you yourself will want to be using his kit and how to just use him effectively. Spider-Man is meant for just going straight into the enemy lines and just kind of disrupting the enemies. That's how I use him personally. You're going to want to use your web swing to approach the enemies, and as you swing in there, I usually like to focus on one specific individual. I'll fire my web shooters at them so that I can activate my grapple, and then here comes a very important part of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is all about his combos. There was another ability that I have not yet mentioned, which is Spider-Man's uppercut punch. As Spider-Man, in order to be doing the most amount of damage possible, you're going to be wanting to implement combos. And what I mean by that is you're going to want to have a game plan whenever you're going in to attack the enemies. So for instance, my initial strategy when playing Spider-Man and swinging into the enemy back lines is to first web shoot an enemy. That's the start of the combo. I then will grapple to the enemy using Spider-Man's grapple ability now that I shot them with the web. Then you'll want to use the uppercut punch ability that allows you to send the enemy in the air, or you can attack the enemy on the ground if you want to get a tiny bit more damage and then uppercut them. And then once the enemy's in the air, I like to punch them a little bit more in the air, and usually that does quite a significant amount of damage. Sometimes it'll be able to kill, sometimes it won't be able to. However, combos like that is really going to be your bread and butter for Spider-Man. In order to be as effective as possible and get the most damage specifically out of Spider-Man, you're going to want to implement that uppercut punch ability. You're going to be wanting to use your grapple ability to just disorientate the enemies and also do some damage on them. You're just going to be wanting to use this whole kit, and that way you're going to want to learn some combos, and you will just do that just over time by playing Spider-Man. However, if you're looking for an easy starter combo, I always recommend just uppercutting the enemy and then punching them from there. And you can incorporate your other abilities into that, but that is just like a good basic starter point if you're trying to learn Spider-Man. So once you get a combo or two off, I would recommend getting out of there unless you're not being shot at. Now, if you're not being shot at and you're able to just do your combos and get kills, keep doing that. However, if you start to get shot at, this is where Spider-Man's hit and run abilities come into play. With Spider-Man's web swing, you're able to instantly get out of a location. So when you are playing as Spider-Man, whenever you get to about 100 or 80 health, I would say, just web swing out of there, find a teammate, or maybe find a health kit on the map, and then that way you can heal up instantly and get right back into the action. Spider-Man doesn't have too much health, and he can very easily be taken down since he is a melee character. So it is just very important to note, you got to be very mobile as Spider-Man. You got to be ready to do these hit and run tactics. You want to get into the enemy lines, do a few combos, mess them up a little bit. Maybe they don't kill you, keep doing your combos, but if they start to get you, that is when you want to run away. And by doing this, you are being a distraction for the enemy team. This allows your teammates to create more space, and they don't have to fight a few characters that are instead distracted on you. And that's Spider-Man's bread and butter. He is all about just distracting the enemy, and when they aren't distracted with Spider-Man, you punish them with your combos. Now you may be asking yourself, who should I be targeting when I am going into the enemy line and trying to get a kill? I personally highly recommend going for the healers specifically. One, they are low health targets. All the healers within this game don't have too much health, at least compared to other characters like tanks. And taking out a healer is incredibly beneficial because they are usually the most backline targets on the enemy team. So if you're able to take them out, that not only just removes maybe half the enemy team's healing, or maybe all of their healing, which can allow you to pretty much just storm an objective really easily. So definitely target the healers, and if you can't find a healer, I highly recommend trying to go for another duelist. And if you can't do that, attacking anyone, like attacking a tank, attacking a duelist, really anyone, as long as you're getting damage out and you're distracting somebody, that is great, but definitely focus on trying to get the healers when you are doing your dives as Spider-Man. Another pretty significant part of Spider-Man's kit, which I haven't mentioned, is the fact that he has a double jump, and this is one of the best double jump abilities in the game, as it recharges every time you land and it's automatically recharged. So you're going to be wanting to incorporate this into his movement. The less you are off the ground, the more you are moving around, the more chaotic and the more of a blur you are, the easier you will have as a Spider-Man player. So that's an overview of Spider-Man's playstyle. You're going to be wanting to use him as a way to disrupt the enemy team, get into the back line, take out the healers, but you also need to be really smart with not only your combos that you're using in order to maximize the amount of damage possible, and that honestly is just going to come down to learning them. Different situations will call for different combos, and what I personally highly recommend is just learning Spider-Man's kit. However, a good string of combos that will usually always help you is first web shooting the enemy, grapple, doing the uppercut, punching them in the air, and maybe if they get distance on you, you can use your web shooters. But again, a lot of this Spider-Man combos and stuff like that is just going to come down to you learning Spider-Man's kit and learning which combos are useful in a certain situation. And it may sound difficult, it may sound a little daunting when I say using combos, but really it's just what abilities you combo together in order to kill an enemy. It's not too different from any other character in the game. However, it's definitely amplified on Spider-Man. So just be ready to do that as Spider-Man, but if you can nail those things down, if you run a disrupt the enemy team, get the healers, and also have a super mobile character, I highly recommend playing Spider-Man. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the counters to Spider-Man, not only so that you can counter the enemy Spider-Man on the enemy team, but also so you can be a better Spider-Man player and know your weaknesses. The main weaknesses for Spider-Man are going to be stuns. Of course, stuns are volatile on all characters. However, especially on Spider-Man, if you get into the enemy backline and they manage to stun you, like there's a Mantis and she manages to stun you, that can spell the end of your career, okay? So you need to be smart. Make sure to watch out for characters who use stuns. Additionally, really any ranged character can definitely be damaging to Spider-Man if they're targeted. So be careful if a ranged character is shooting at you and trying to kill you. It's not the end of the world, but you definitely have to be a lot more mobile. Maybe don't attack, maybe just keep running around. Because again, if you're distracting the enemy, that is a huge part of Spider-Man's kit. And whenever you're not distracting the enemy, that's when you attack. So yeah, really any high damage targets that are able to stun characters or slow them down, or prevent them from using their abilities, anything like that is detrimental to Spider-Man, and ranged characters, if they're targeting Spider-Man, can be a little bit devastating if you're not paying attention. But overall, those are going to be his main counters. I guess another major weakness Spider-Man has is his health, but as I said earlier, that is just kind of part of his kit, and whenever you get to low health and are being attacked, web swing out of there. Either web swing to your own backline so that your healers can heal you, or you can web swing to a health kit, which is just as good. So those are the main counters to Spider-Man. With all that being said, let's go ahead and get into some team compositions and where you should be using Spider-Man and when you should be picking him. Because just like all characters in Marvel Rivals, not every character is meant for every single situation. Tanks that soak up damage and are a distraction to the enemy team, such as Groot, Magneto, Doctor Strange, those types of characters that are soaking up a lot of damage and constantly need to have the enemy's attention are super useful with Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is all about attacking the distracted enemy or distracting the enemy himself. And, you know, since both those characters need constant attention, they really just work well off each other. Additionally, if you have a duelist that is also on your team that is mainly like fighting in the front lines alongside your tanks, that is super useful, because that is, again, just going to amplify the amount of attention that the enemy team needs to provide on your front line, which means that, again, you can go in and kill the enemy. Really, the only time Spider-Man isn't going to be a useful pick is if you are constantly being targeted and they know the enemy team has a Spider-Man and they're ready to attack you and they're coordinated. That's it. Like, you know, sometimes you just need to cut your losses. If you can't get back there consistently and the enemy team knows what's up, sometimes it's best to just switch. Additionally, if the enemy team, for whatever reason, doesn't really have any low health characters and just makes it really difficult to get into the back line, yeah, that isn't going to be a great time to play Spider-Man. But overall, Spider-Man can really work in any situation. It's really just going to come down to you to learn the character and just learn the combos, learn when you need to be web swinging out of there when you're about to die, but also being able to like maximize your damage as Spider-Man. He's definitely a little bit of a complicated character. However, when you learn him and the more you play him, he's really not too bad. As we near the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys some overall tips to just make you a better Spider-Man player. My first tip is to take note of cooldowns. You need to be wary of your cooldowns as Spider-Man. If you're going into the enemy back line, that's great, but if your web swings are completely on cooldown and you have no way of getting out of there, that's bad, and you're probably going to die. So always be wary of your cooldowns. And on that same note, I would recommend just always having at least one web swing in your pocket, at least if you're planning to go into the enemy back line. Just that way you can guarantee at least being able to escape. It's also important to note, you don't need two web swings to just be like really fast. Sometimes you can just use one web swing and that will give you so much speed and momentum, the enemies won't even bother following you. So that's just something to note. Don't think you need multiple web swings all the time. However, just always be paying attention, because, you know, sometimes you can save a web swing, and sometimes you're wasting one. Another huge tip I have, and this kind of has been a theme throughout the entire video, but don't overcommit. Don't wait until your health is at like 50 or at 20 to swing out of there and get out of the enemy back line. I recommend just getting out of there when you're at 100 health or so. Don't overcommit as Spider-Man. Be smart, but also don't be too passive, because your role as a Spider-Man player is to distract the enemy, and if you're being really passive and not really doing anything, you're not doing your job. I also highly recommend not wasting your web shooters. You need to be saving these things for just shooting the enemy. You only have, like, I think 5, and they're on cooldown. So it's just useful to have as many as possible, so try not to waste them, but do also note they're always on cooldown, so you can use them. Just again, be wary of the cooldown. Another thing I highly recommend is comboing with your ultimate. Spider-Man's ultimate is super easy, just like a web barrage. You have an area of attack that damages enemies, and it's a pretty strong area of attack. So you can use this in your combos. You can, web shoot an enemy, use the pole, punch them up in the air, and then activate your ultimate, and you will do a ton of damage not only to that enemy, but you can also combo it into maybe, like, maybe you're near the payload, and then you can get damage off onto the healers that are also there. So yeah, just be trying to combo literally all of Spider-Man's abilities. So with all that being said, that's going to end off my video on Spider-Man. If you found some good information in this video, it'd mean a lot to me if you dropped a like. This was just a general overview of Spider-Man and some tips and tricks on how to be a better Spider-Man player. I really hope it could have helped you guys. Maybe you learned something. And if you have any additional advice to other players out there, be sure to comment down below. I'm sure other people will appreciate it, and I will appreciate it. So yeah, just be sure to do that. And with all that being said, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.